Emily and Sarah were sisters, born only 2 years apart in a small town in the United States. Growing up, they shared everything: clothes, secrets, dreams, and even the same tiny bedroom. Their parents often said that although they were two different people, they had only one heart. As they grew older, life took them down different paths. Emily was the older sister. She was beautiful, confident, and highly educated. After college, she got a great job in New York City. A few years later, she married Michael, a successful businessman. Their wedding was held in a luxurious hotel, attended by hundreds of guests. Emily moved into a huge mansion with a swimming pool, expensive cars, and servants who handled daily chores. Sarah's life was very different. She fell in love with Daniel, a hard-working mechanic from a poor family. They married in a simple church ceremony with only close relatives present. Their home was a small rented apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Some days were difficult, and money was always tight, but Sarah and Daniel loved each other deeply. Despite their different lifestyles, the sisters remained close. Every weekend they talked on the phone for hours. Emily would often send gifts and help Sarah financially when she could. Sarah never felt jealous of her sister's wealth. She was genuinely happy for her. Years passed. 1 year became 3, 3 became 5, and 5 became 10. Sarah became the mother of 3 beautiful children, 2 boys and a little girl. Her house was always filled with laughter, toys, and noise. But Emily's mansion remained silent. She and Michael desperately wanted a child. They visited the best doctors in America. They traveled to different states seeking treatment. They spent thousands of dollars on medical procedures. Nothing worked. Each failed attempt broke Emily's heart a little more. Whenever she attended family gatherings and saw children running around, she smiled on the outside but cried inside. At night she would sit alone in her large bedroom, looking at the empty nursery she had prepared years ago. One evening, Sarah visited her sister. She found Emily sitting in the nursery, holding a tiny baby blanket. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked softly. Emily quickly wiped away her tears. "Nothing." But Sarah knew. She sat beside her sister. For several minutes neither spoke. Finally Emily whispered, "I think God doesn't want me to be a mother." The pain in her voice shattered Sarah's heart. "No," Sarah replied. "Don't say that." Emily looked at her with tear-filled eyes. "I have everything, Sarah. Money, a beautiful home, a loving husband. But none of it matters when I come home to an empty house." That night Sarah could not sleep. She kept thinking about her sister. A year later, Sarah became pregnant again. Although raising 3 children was already difficult, she and Daniel accepted the blessing with gratitude. Throughout the pregnancy, Sarah often thought about Emily's sadness. One night she spoke to Daniel. "What if we gave this baby to Emily?" Daniel was stunned. "What?" Sarah nodded slowly. "She has wanted a child for over 10 years. Daniel sat silently. "But this is our baby." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "I know. And thinking about it hurts. But every time I see Emily cry, my heart breaks." For weeks they discussed it. It was the hardest conversation either of them had ever had. Finally Daniel said, "If this is truly what you want, I will support you." Months later, Sarah gave birth to a healthy baby boy. When she first held him, her heart overflowed with love. For a moment she wondered if she could really do what she had planned. Then she remembered Emily's tears. A few days later, Emily came to visit the hospital. She entered the room carrying flowers. Sarah smiled weakly. "Come, here." Emily walked closer. Sarah gently placed the newborn baby in her sister's arms. Emily looked confused. "He's beautiful." Sarah nodded. "He's yours." The room became silent. Emily stared at her. "What do you mean?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I want you to be his mother." Emily thought she had misunderstood. "No, Sarah." "Yes." "No." "Yes." Emily began crying uncontrollably. "You can't do this." Sarah reached for her hand. "I already have 3 children who call me mom. You have spent more than a decade praying for just one." The sisters hugged each other and cried for a long time. Even the nurses in the room wiped away tears. The legal adoption process took several months. Eventually everything became official. Emily and Michael named the baby Ethan. For the first time in years, laughter echoed through their mansion. The empty nursery finally had a child sleeping inside it. Emily devoted herself completely to motherhood. Every bedtime story, every school event, every scraped knee and every birthday became precious. She never forgot the sacrifice Sarah had made. As Ethan grew older, he was surrounded by love from both families. Sarah remained a special part of his life. She never tried to replace Emily as his mother. Instead, she became his beloved aunt. When Ethan was 12 years old, he learned the truth. Emily sat beside him and explained everything. She told him how much Sarah loved him. She told him about the incredible sacrifice his birth mother had made. Ethan listened quietly. Then he asked, "Does Aunt Sarah still love me?" Emily smiled through tears. "More than you can imagine." The next day Ethan visited Sarah. Without saying a word, he wrapped his arms around her. Sarah looked surprised. "I know everything," he whispered. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She hugged him tightly. "Then you know how much I love you." Ethan nodded. "And I love you too." Years passed. Ethan became a successful young man. At his university graduation, both Emily and Sarah sat in the front row. When Ethan walked across the stage, he saw both women cheering for him. After the ceremony, he stood before everyone and gave a speech. "I am standing here today because of two mothers." The crowd became silent. "One mother gave me life. The other gave me a future. One made the greatest sacrifice imaginable. The other spent her life raising me with endless love." Both sisters were already crying. Ethan continued, "I am blessed because God gave me not one mother, but two extraordinary women." The audience stood and applauded. Emily and Sarah embraced each other. At that moment, it didn't matter that one sister lived in a mansion and the other in a small house. It didn't matter who was rich and who was poor. What mattered was love, the kind of love that sacrifices. The kind of love that gives without expecting anything in return. The kind of love that turns ordinary people into heroes. And as the sisters stood together with tears in their eyes and pride in their hearts, they realized that family was never measured by wealth, status, or possessions. Family was measured by the size of the heart. And their hearts were richer than any fortune in the world. Heart. Years passed after Ethan became part of Emily's family. The little boy grew up surrounded by love, care, and opportunities that many children could only dream of. Emily and Michael devoted their lives to him. Every morning, Emily prepared his breakfast before school, helped him with homework, and read bedtime stories every night. To her, Ethan was not adopted. He was simply her son. At the same time, Sarah continued raising her other children in their small home. Life was not easy. There were months when paying the bills seemed impossible. Sometimes Daniel worked extra shifts just to put food on the table. Yet despite their struggles, Sarah never regretted the decision she had made. Every birthday, every holiday, and every family gathering brought the two families together. Ethan always ran first to hug Sarah. As he grew older, he often wondered why his aunt looked at him differently than she looked at his cousins. There was a special tenderness in her eyes, a love that seemed deeper than words. When Ethan turned 16, tragedy struck. Michael was involved in a serious car accident while returning from a business trip. Despite the doctor's efforts, he did not survive. The news shattered the family. Emily felt as if her entire world had collapsed. She had already spent years struggling with infertility, and now she had lost the man who had stood beside her through every hardship. For weeks she barely left her room. One evening Ethan entered her bedroom and found her sitting in darkness. "Mom," he said softly. Emily looked up. "I don't know how to do this without your father." Ethan sat beside her and held her hand. "You don't have to do it alone." Those simple words reminded Emily that although she had lost her husband, she still had a son who loved her deeply. Over the next few years Ethan became her greatest source of strength. He worked hard in school and earned excellent grades. Teachers admired his kindness and maturity. Friends respected him because he always treated people fairly regardless of their social status. One summer, Ethan volunteered at a community center that helped struggling families. There he witnessed poverty up close for the first time. He met children who often went to bed hungry. He saw parents working multiple jobs just to survive. The experience changed him. When he returned home, he began asking questions about Sarah's life. One day he noticed Sarah's old car breaking down. Without hesitation, he used money he had saved from part-time jobs to help repair it. Sarah smiled. "You didn't have to do that." Ethan shrugged. "Family helps family." Sarah turned away for a moment to hide the tears in her eyes. The older he became, the more Sarah saw pieces of herself in him. When Ethan turned 18, Emily decided the time had come to tell him the truth. She invited him to sit with her in the living room. Her hands trembled as she held an old photo album. "Ethan, there is something important you need to know." For hours she explained everything. She told him about her inability to have children. She told him about years of heartbreak. She told him about Sarah's incredible sacrifice. By the end of the story, both of them were crying. Ethan sat silently. His entire life suddenly made sense. The special way Sarah looked at him. The emotional moments between the sisters. The tears he had never fully understood. Finally he asked quietly, "Why would she do that?" Emily wiped away her tears. "Because she loved me." The next morning Ethan drove straight to Sarah's house. Sarah opened the door and smiled. Before she could speak, Ethan wrapped his arms around her. She immediately sensed something had changed. "You know, don't you?" He nodded. Both of them cried. For a long time neither said anything. Then Ethan spoke. "You gave up the most precious thing in your life." Sarah shook her head. "No, yes, no, Ethan, I never gave you up. I simply shared you with your mother." Those words stayed with him forever. Years later Ethan graduated from one of the best universities in the United States. After graduation he started a foundation dedicated to helping children from low-income families receive education and healthcare. When reporters asked what inspired him, he always gave the same answer. Two extraordinary women. The foundation grew rapidly. Thousands of families received help. Many children were able to attend school because of Ethan's efforts. One evening, during a charity event attended by hundreds of guests, Ethan stood on stage and invited Emily and Sarah to join him. The audience watched as the two sisters walked toward him. Ethan took a deep breath. "Everything I am today exists because of these women." The room fell silent. One taught me that love means sacrifice. The other taught me that love means dedication. Together they showed me what family truly means. Many people in the audience wiped tears from their eyes. Ethan then surprised everyone. He announced that he had purchased a beautiful home for Sarah and Daniel as a gift for everything they had done. Sarah was speechless. "You shouldn't have done this." Ethan smiled. "You spent your life giving to others. Let me give something back." Tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time in years, Sarah and Daniel no longer had to worry about rent or financial struggles. As the years passed, both sisters grew older. Their hair turned gray. Their children built families of their own. But their bond never weakened. One peaceful afternoon they sat together on a porch watching their grandchildren play. Emily looked at Sarah and smiled. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't made that decision?" Sarah looked at Ethan laughing with his children nearby. Then she shook her head. "No, because every step led us here." Emily gently held her sister's hand. "Thank you." Sarah squeezed it softly. "You would have done the same for me." As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, the two sisters sat side by side, grateful for the life they had shared. Their journey had begun with different fortunes, one rich, one poor, but in the end neither wealth nor poverty defined them. What defined them was love. A love so powerful that it changed lives, healed broken hearts, and created a family stronger than anything money could ever buy. Heart.